in my damn house.
Good morning, everyone. Hungry Black Man here.
Jill Tracy here. Good morning.
And we have a really great show for you guys. We're going to start the show out with something that's not so great, which was the violence over the weekend experienced by, unfortunately, babies, little small Black children across the United States lost their lives as a result of senseless gun violence. And the majority of the individuals who were shooting were groups of men shooting at each other, and these kids were unfortunately caught in the crossfire. Uh, we shared this post yesterday, and we're going to be launching our own initiative to work toward um, decreasing the incidents of our kids losing their lives. And I wanted to show you guys this, but before we get into the story, these were the babies over the weekend uh, that lost their lives. So our heart goes out to their families, and we are going to do our part in ensuring that this does not happen in our community again.
Well, that's a hefty task.
And so we can definitely accomplish that, and there's ways to accomplish it. And we're gonna get into CBS actually covered the story, so I'm gonna show you guys the story that CBS covered with the children losing their lives, and Mayor Keisha Bottoms as well. And guys, please stay with us today. We're gonna have NBA star Udonis Haslem on the show. We look forward to a great conversation with him, and we're gonna get our conversation started today with this story of unfortunate circumstances.
Violence really cast a grim shadow over 4th of July celebrations this weekend. And it happened in city after city after city. We're going to start in Chicago, though. At least 77 people shot on Friday in Chicago, 13 people killed. And one of them was a 7-year-old little girl. Her name is Natalia Wallace. She was visiting her grandmother for a 4th of July celebration. And her family describes her as sweet, shy, and loving.
And I jumped the flight of stairs coming down. I saw my baby in here. She's 7 years old. She smiles about anything she asked me about. I love that little girl, okay? I'll never be the same again.
I mean, who wants to bury their child? It should be the other way around.
We talk about Black Lives Matter, but at the end of the day, we killing each other. We killing our babies. We can't bring her back, but we want justice.
Yes.
We definitely want justice. Justice for Natalie. Justice for Natalie.
In Atlanta, an 8-year-old girl was killed, along with 23 other people shot in the city, but an 8-year-old girl killed. Her name's Acorrea Turner. She died after a group of people opened fire on a car that she was sitting in with her mother and another friend, another adult. And the shooting, coincidentally, happened right across the street from the Wendy's where Rayshard Brooks was a couple of weeks ago. And where there are ongoing protests. The city's mayor said that peaceful protests for racial justice are important, but condemned those that she said were wreaking havoc on the community.
You can't blame this on the police officer. You can't say that this is about criminal justice reform. This is about some people carrying some weapons who shot up a car with an 8-year-old baby in the car. For what? There are thousands of people who are gathering peacefully to try and effectuate change in this country. And then there are those who are wreaking havoc.
Oh, you ate.
And they are doing it to the detriment of us all.
We understand the frustration of Rayshard Brooks. We understand. We ain't got nothing to do with it. We innocent. We didn't mean no harm. My baby didn't mean no harm.
On Sunday, 3 other people in that very same location were shot. 1 person was killed, and police are trying to determine the cause of the shooting. And then moving on to where I live, Philadelphia, dozens of shootings over the course of 24 hours. One of the shootings led to the death of a 6-year-old boy. Trent Doe from our CBS station, KYW, has more on that.
I don't know what happened. I know it's going to be super, super sad. I mean, I know the family and I know the little guy. I mean, it's really, really upsetting.
July 5th started with 2 men shot on the 600 block of South Street at 2:30 a.m. Then another double shooting at 1:30 in the afternoon on the 1800 block of Wallace Street in Spring Garden. Less than an hour later, a 37-year-old woman was shot 12 times in the torso on the 1900 block of Clarence Street in Harrogate. At 3:20, another woman shot in the arm on the 2700 block of North Broad Street. At the same time in Point Breeze, a double shooting left 1 man dead on the 1300 block of 17th Street. In North Philadelphia, a 43-year-old man was fatally shot in the back of the head on the 2300 block of Cross Street. Then just before 5 p.m., an 11-year-old girl in West Philly suffered a graze wound on the 2500 block of 67th Street. Just before 6:30, 1 man died in a double shooting outside of a home on the 2100 block of East Ann Street in Kensington. Police say 2 gunmen approached and opened fire as the men sat together during a barbecue on the block.
COVID is one of the epidemics we're dealing with, but we're also continuing to deal with the prevalence of homicides and shootings in our community. And prayerfully, we can find out who committed this crime, and we can bring some peace and closure to the members of this community.
Well, about 100 miles northeast of Philadelphia in New York City, at least 9 people were killed in shootings over the weekend. That's according to CBS in New York.
Sorry.
It's for the mayor's parties not to.
So, yeah. So that happened all over the weekend. I'm going to start the conversation with just to let you guys know, to put it in perspective, this is what we don't want. This is the juxtaposition that Terry Crews is having with Don Lemon and Mayor Bottoms, her frustration, as well as the frustration of the young lady who also said that, Black Lives Matters is a big deal, but what about her baby? I think that it's so unfortunate that the slogan of Black Lives Matter, which is specifically directed toward police brutality and the killings of Black people by the hands of police, that it is being expanded. Over the weekend as well, Ricky Smiley's daughter was shot 3 times, and Ricky Smiley is actually journeying to Houston to see about his daughter. And these are happening in our neighborhoods, and it is a big issue. And so we wanted to talk about that issue today, and we wanted to get the thought our listeners, as well as stories from our listeners, because we are going to be doing work around this issue. Just so you know, to put it in perspective, the number of Black deaths actually has been on the decline, even though it is a big problem. We suffer a greater number of homicides than any other race in the United States by proportion and by number. So it should tell you that we make up only 13% of the population, but our total homicides, for instance, in 2018 was 7,407, and out of that 7,407 that were killed, 6,237 of them were men, and 1,168 were women. Black women die the least. Just so you know, white women die more by homicide than Black women. White women by number, but by by number, white women die more. However, white women die less by proportion. There's tons more white women in the nation than Black women. And so the total number of homicides in the nation was 14,123. That was a total number of homicides in the nation. And Black men represented the largest group of the murders, which is 7,407. And so 8.4% of that number was also Black children. That's the big problem. The biggest problem is that we have a massive disproportionate number of Black children who are losing their lives to gun violence. And so when we look at how this is happening, and we talk about people like Sheriff Tony, who's running for re-election in Broward County. We talk about the election of our police chief here in Miami-Dade County. What are we looking at, and how are we looking at this problem? And so when people start talking about defunding the police, I want you guys to understand the seriousness behind what that means. When we talk about defunding the police, it's not about taking money from the police department and leaving your streets unprotected. It's about rerouting dollars so that we can deal with the underlining pinnings that are creating environments that are killing our kids. And so when you look at every single one of the kids that I showed you, their lives lost this weekend were from men shooting at each other, either in cars, through quarrels. And so we have a massive conflict resolution piece that's not being handled. The underlining pinnings of gun violence in our community, specifically South Florida, is rooted in juvenile gun violence and gangs, right? And these gangs, they're not gangs in the sense of having an enterprise, having a criminal enterprise. These are kids that just have allegiances to streets. So if I'm from 22nd Avenue and 151st Street or whatever, and that's where I'm from, I'll hail that, and then I'll go to school walking around with a flag, get my hand on a gun, and I'm a gang, right? And that's literally what our gangs are here. They're not stripping cars down and selling them on the black market. They're not operating these very intricate drug rings. They're not doing any of that. They're just literally acting stupid, and they're shooting each other. And so how do you now deal with that? And so, Jill, we put up a post yesterday asking for folks to volunteer to mentor. And overwhelmingly, we had so many Black women volunteer their time to mentor. And so it was a little upsetting because I wanted to see more Black men volunteer, but that's a bit anecdotal in and of itself. However, we do want to have a conversation on how do we get to the point where those of us who have the ability to reroute the lives of these kids and reroute the lives of these individuals who are susceptible to at-risk behavior, why are we not doing more? Is my question. Why are we not doing more? And when I say more specifically, why are we not doing the intervention models to actually change the narrative? Why do you feel that that is prevalent in our community?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I said.
I was trying to find this. I'm going to find it before the show is over. This song, this Kendrick Lamar song that tells that whole story. It isn't, gangs are inclusion. I think if it were any other, if the hood were something different, gangs would be for fraternities. The Masons. It's a place of inclusion for Black men who, like you just described, everybody describes them just like you just did. So for what you have to do to be a part of that, which is worse, niggas who you look up to, and then you realize they like, that nigga trash like the rest of them. Or people that you're aspiring to look up to, but you're afraid that they're going to reject you, and that's going to hurt worse than the nigga that used to live down your block rejecting you. So this is a brotherhood that accepts you. It's a bunch of shit you got to do, but part of you wants to shoot up some shit anyway. So I'm gonna ride or die with these niggas. That's what that is. Everybody wants to be included somewhere. And, you know, and that inclusion will then take care of you when you get to prison, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to get there. So you already got somebody, you know, is going to hold you down there. So you kind of covered.
I think that what I was asking was that when you look at what creates these murders, right? You have 2 schools where you have intervention and you have prevention. And so what I'm asking the listeners today is to just listen for 1 second and really take this serious. Wherever you are, we have someone, good morning, from Minnesota, from Falcon Heights, that just chimed in. And so there's people watching from all over the United States and watches this show. And it's a really great feeling. And we know that a lot of us live in communities or proximity to communities where we are the dominant population, and that we know of someone who has lost the life of their child due to this senseless gun violence. I want to ask, what have you done? What have you done to involve yourself in the prevention or the intervention of these occurrences? And if you haven't done anything, would you be willing to do something? What
would that look like?
Right. And so the things that I would suggest, having a background in this, right, is that the prevention is the easiest thing for people to do, because intervention is very, very difficult. Once these children have matriculated and they're into this lifestyle, intervening in their lives becomes very challenging, right? And so that is where the police come in. That is where the church comes in. That is where ex-military comes in. And so we are in the process of gathering a lot of ex-military Black folks, men, together to run these programs. And the reason why we say ex-military is because the military does a very good job at instilling forms of discipline in some of the kids that experience antisocial behavior and at-risk behaviors, right? And so when you see that structure is missing, it's important to try to get that structure back. And so when our kids come out,
or if that structure was ever there.
Yeah, many a times the structure was never there. And so now we have a situation where looking at how our kids are developed, you know, you have 2 types of development that's happening. You have a personal family development, and then you have a societal development. And so that societal development is problematic, right? That becomes very problematic. The definition of what it means to be, you know, a man in society, specifically a Black man, what that definition looks like. And then how do you now move throughout each grade level with this definition evolving, right? Where the definition can be anywhere from if someone disrespects you, you physically hit them. If someone disagrees with you, then you what are the rules of engagement to society, right? And so if there is no other, someone said, how do we know that the people in our community did the shootings? Because they saw them. The people who lost the lives of their children, they saw what happened. Many of them, I looked at the stories, and so they saw groups of men arguing. They saw not most of them, all of them was that narrative. Groups of men arguing, and then gunfire rang out. And so that's what we're talking about. Like many of these kids, many of these young adults, they don't employ conflict resolution, and then there's even a communication issue. The mom that was talking, you know, she literally attempted to say brutality and like couldn't get the word out. I mean, she was obviously distraught, but that's another big barrier, is the fact that a lot of people in our communities, because they don't finish school, they don't have the resources to a lot of times remain in school. the education system it gets to the point where you literally can't communicate, and it's just it's a cycle. Someone said we have to start when these kids are very young. I grew up in times where I was raised by the village. We have to grab these kids when they are young. By the time they're over 10 years old, it's too late. I would probably disagree with that, only because I felt my most success was actually in the middle school era. Middle school and early high school was the best interventions for me. Believe it or not, the ones that we did catch early, they were the ones. It's the weirdest things. The ones that we caught early in programs, they were the ones that tended to actually fall off the wagon more. The later we got them, the more successful they were. So our age of success was between 11 and 14. 11 and 14 was our like age of success. When they were very young, we would work with them, and then around 12, they would sort of like take it was a very interesting thing that we didn't do enough research on to find out why, but we did see that a number of our kids that we caught young actually did not fare well. The ones that we worked with that were between 11 and 14 showed the most promise through adult life. So we were able to follow them to see the 11-year-olds, turn 20, 23, 24-year-olds, and see the 7-year-olds turn into 24 or 23-year-olds. And it's a big difference. It's a big difference. So on that note, Terry Crews, one of the things that you notice is that they meaning folks who are in this area, starts to conflate or to compare consistently the Black Lives Matter movement to gun violence in just general Black neighborhoods. And that's a big, big fallacy, and it's a big problem. And so we are going to show you guys an interview with Terry Crews and Don Lemon. Very brief, to hear Terry Crews attempt to explain his stupidity.
Listen to this segment because actor and activist Terry Crews facing backlash for tweeting, "We must ensure Black Lives Matter doesn't morph into Black Lives Better." Here's how he explained it. Are all white people bad? No. Are all Black people good? No. Knowing this reality, I stand on my decision to unite with good people, no matter the race, creed, or ideology. Given the number of threats against this decision, I also decide to die on this hill. Terry Crews joins me now. Terry, man, you stepped in it. You say that you're willing. Yeah. You say you're willing to die on this hill. You've taken a lot of heat for this. Explain what you were thinking and why it's so important to die on this hill.
Well, again, I wanted to bring up the fact that, there are some very, very, militant type forces in Black Lives Matter. And what I was issuing was a warning. It's one of those things where I've been a part of different groups, I've been a part of different things, and you see how extremes can go far and can go wild. And then when you issue a warning, and when a warning is seen as detrimental to the movement, how can you ever have checks and balances? In the 60s and 70s, airplanes went down all the time. And the reason they found out why they did
that was false
was because the pilots could never be questioned. And when you have the leaders of the Black Lives Movement who are now talking about, if we don't get our demands, we're going to burn it down. Other Black people who are talking about working with other whites and other races, they're being viewed as sellouts or called Uncle Toms. You start to understand that you are now, being controlled. You're not being treated as love. You're actually being controlled. Someone wants to control the narrative. And I viewed it as a very, very dangerous self-righteousness that was developing that really viewed themselves as better. It was almost a supremacist move.
Let me jump
where
in.
They viewed that their Black lives mattered a lot more than mine.
Okay, so let me jump in here. There's a lot that you said. You think Black Lives Matter is? You said you think it's an extreme movement because it's not part of the.
No, but this is the thing. It's a great mantra. It's the true mantra. Black lives do matter. But when you're talking about an organization,
And when you say but,
people who are responsible.
Okay, I got you. So let me, Cherry, you realize that even during the civil rights movement that Dr. King was seen as extreme. That movement was seen as extreme. To people who don't want to make change, movements are seen as extreme. You can paint them easily as an extreme when they are not.
This is very true, but also when you talk about MLK, you talk about Nelson Mandela, and even Malcolm X, they all realized that you had to have a non-racial component to these kind of movements, or there will be resentment, there will be get back, there will
is a non.
Listen, I don't want to move from one oppressor.
No, don't do it.
What is he talking about?
Who's the next oppressor? Who's the next oppressor?
Oh, when I describe this, when you look in the city of Chicago, there are 9 children who died by gun violence, by black-on-black gun violence, from June 20th all the way to today. And you're talking about, even with the Atlanta child murders, there were 28 kids who died in 2 years. You're talking about a month, and you have 9 black kids, and the Black Lives Matter movement has said nothing about this.
What does that have to do with equality, though, Terry?
Okay.
What that has to do with equality, because listen, there's crime. There are people in those communities those people aren't just being nonchalant about gun violence. I live in Chicago. There are many people who are working in those communities to try to get rid of the gun violence. The gun culture in this country is prevalent, but I don't understand what that has to do with a movement that's
that's right.
for black people. It's not mutually exclusive that you care about equality for black people, that somehow you're going to stop random violence or, unfortunately, kids from being shot. It just seems like apples and oranges.
It's not that way. This is the thing, Don. Black people need to hold other black people accountable. I said this the same thing.
We do.
What's
he talking about?
What is he talking about? I love the fact that Don Lemon did this to him.
Okay.
And look at each other and say, this thing cannot go down. And this is the thing, too. There are a lot of great people there who are held hostage,
He really searching for shit now.
Literally are running these neighborhoods with violence and then claiming that Black Lives Matter. When you look at the parents of these little kids who are mentioning, saying, hey, man, why aren't they speaking up for me, too? And this is what I'm saying. When I look at this whole thing about, it's about who is controlling the narrative. It's got to be all Black Lives Matter. And what's happened is that because I even challenged it, because I even questioned and warned people,
Terry,
I became sick.
Okay. He's like, Terry, come on now.
You're a high-profile person. You're writing things out there. You know you're going to get backlash. You know people are going to respond to what you're saying on Twitter. So I don't think you should be surprised by that. I have a skin as tough as an armadillo because of what I do, and I think maybe you should. But here's what I have to say. The Black Lives Matter movement was started because it was talking about police brutality. If you want an all Black Lives Matter movement that talks about gun violence in communities, including black communities, then start that movement with that name. But that's
right.
Black Lives Matter is about. It's not an all-encompassing. So if you're talking about if someone started a movement that said cancer matters, and then someone comes in and says, why aren't you talking about HIV? It's not the same thing.
Exactly. Oh, yes, Don. Yes, Don.
Is about police brutality and injustice in that manner, not about what's happening in black neighborhoods. There are people who are working on that issue, and if you want to start that issue, why don't you start it? Do you understand what I'm saying?
If you're looking lost.
Police brutality is not the only thing they're talking about.
I know that. I agree, but that's not what the Black Lives Matter movement is about, Terry. Black Lives Matter is about police brutality and about criminal justice. It's not about what happens in communities when it comes to crime. People who live people kill each other. Even as whites, 80-something people are killed by white people because of proximity. It's the same thing with black people. That happens in every single neighborhood. But that isn't, again, I'm not saying that's not important that those kids died, but it's a different movement.
Listen, I understand what you're saying. I totally understand. It is about police brutality. That should never be accepted. I am not saying that that's not it, but there's more there. And when I look at, if they have more on their agenda, we need to ask them about what else is on that agenda.
What
other
is
than
he
police
talking
brutality.
about?
And that's all I'm doing. Questioning, warning, watching. And if that bothers you, now that bothers me. Because if I can't warn you, we are equal.
All right. So Don Lemon did an incredible job.
He really did.
Stopping this. And if you notice, Terry Crews is not very smart. That's obvious. He couldn't understand how. I don't even think he knew what the word mutually exclusive meant, because that's the other problem when you argue with stupid people. When you attempt to give them either analogies or break down the complexities of an argument, they don't understand that. So now they find themselves just like riddling off and repeating the narrative that they've fixated on in their fucking heads. And so this guy,
no, that's the only one he has. He doesn't have. Don kept asking him, what have you done in that space? And he had nothing. That's because he's got one note. That's it. That's all he knows. That's what him and his friends sit around and talk about when it comes to the Black community. But like he said, are you doing shit? What you doing? And he had nothing.
Absolutely nothing. And so when we look at like that, Jill, we find that to be so rampant, right? And even in our neighborhoods, people like Terry Crews here locally that go to every single meeting, that voices their concerns on every fucking platform, and then when it's time to work, you get nothing from them.
No, because they're like Facebook preachers. And, they get on there and do the whole spiel, and then they feel like they've done it really, like it's actually been done. And it isn't. And, I guess there's a place for that too, because it keeps the conversation going. But in terms of like what is really going to move the needle on this, none of that shit's working. Period.
Someone said, what is Terry talking about, man? How has this been a racial movement? I'm so sick of people trying to use black on black crime. Those are different issues. Folks just want to be able to trial and be judged if a crime committed the same way as a white counterpart. Yes, 65,000 Black girls are missing in the U.S. and you say this is extreme. Terry, you are worse than the white moderate, more devoted to order than to justice. The system will hold them accountable. Chicago was created through Operation Fast and Furious, but that's a whole different dialogue that we aren't ready for. So I think that here, Terry Crews is people pleaser, and the people he wants to please are his white friends.
Right.
He
pacify
their anti-Black Lives Matter talking points.
Yeah.
I mean, I try. So I try to understand people a lot more now, right? When I was younger, I would shut ideas down that didn't align with mine. I was very passionate. You
still do, but not as much.
Yeah, I've recognized that I've gotten better because people that I'm not fond of have said, "Hey, Starks, you've gotten better." So I think I've gotten a little better. But with that said, I'm looking at our communities. Think about where you are, and I want you guys to chime in. Wherever you are, I want you to chime in if you feel that you have elected officials or leaders in your community that are doing good things or have come up with great ideas that have actually been implemented. Like I'm trying to.
Okay, that's good. And while you're doing that, we're going to get through all this shit today. Sorry. While you're doing that, today is Blackout Tuesday. Are you blacking out? The whole goal of Blackout Tuesday is to not spend any money at all, period. Period. Nowhere with nothing other than Black businesses. The point is to attempt to show the economic power of the Black dollar. That if like all of us got together and decided we won't spend $1, you would immediately see the economic impact of that. To Star's point earlier, is everybody going to do it? No. Can we get enough people to do it that it is going to make it on Don Lemon tonight? That's like all I'm hoping for. Like if that could happen, then I think to your point about training and groupthink, that it would actually move the needle. But if nobody talks about it and it and there is no mention of it today, then I don't know that there is any hope if we can't all get on that page. Nothing else really matters.
You're talking about that page. You're talking about that page of Black businesses. All right, so let's show a little clip of what they're doing in the country.
I mean, Black worth, really worth.
Tuesday event.
Okay, let's deal with the fact that we can't even find a Black story telling this story. That says a lot right the fuck there.
Here you go, guys.
A local woman is organizing a Blackout Tuesday event in Carbondale. Tomorrow evening, there will be an expo featuring Black business owners, followed by a march. The event was inspired by rapper T.I., who is calling for a countrywide protest for Black people not to shop on that day, and if they do, to only spend money on Black-owned businesses.
We can march all day long, but there needs to be other factors included with the marching, and boycotting is one of them.
The event runs from 5 to 9 tomorrow evening at the First Christian Church on West Monroe Street in Carbondale.
So there's not a lot. There was not a lot of press on Blackout Tuesday. I think that T.I. probably was not the best champion for it because he didn't follow up with it like he should have. I think that people, it's so unfortunate for me that we have to have, I hate to say it like this, but I just hate the fact that we are people that we have to fucking plan to love ourselves. We got to fucking organize to love ourselves. Like this should be, no one has to tell me to do this. This is how I live my life. I'm a Black man that supports my people.
Well then, I mean, you're very rare. You're very blessed. Let's just start there. You're very, very blessed.
No, I just hate this. I
that's
really
the
do.
way you live your life. I mean, just like somebody just said in the comments, it's too many Arabs to like when you think about somebody, most of our impoverished neighborhoods are very, very small. Everything is right there, and they don't even have Black-owned businesses. Everything is owned by somebody else, Arabs, Asian, whatever. Even in our communities. So if you don't get out of that community on a regular basis, like you don't even have the place to spend. You go, when somebody got a car or somebody going, they're gonna come to, they're gonna go to Sundays, they're gonna come to you, they, might go to Harold's Chicken or something like that, and that Crabman 305, and that's how they're gonna get down. But that's it. They don't even have the opportunities to.
I mean, here's
the thing. Why don't we, like people like you, entrepreneurs at your level, why don't you all see the legitimacy of owning all those little bodegas in the hood?
I do. You knew I did, because I opened my goal. I was across the street from a black guy that still owns a store, Anthony. He owns the store on the corner of 91st Street and 22nd Avenue. He owns the land. He's a great brother. He's across the street where we owned. It was also Black-owned land that owns Tiny's liquor store, along with our restaurant that we opened. And it was the most arduous task, because our previous conversation about how to work through these sort of permitting issues in the hood, right, is a big problem. So to be Black and successful in your own community is definitely doable, but we just don't have the support to sustain ourselves in those neighborhoods.
What was missing that you needed?
I needed infrastructure, right? I needed the traffic issues were preventing the store from being successful, because there was no parking and there was no pedestrian walkways that was not obstructed, right? So crossing that street, all I was asking them for, I said, listen, if you can't do traffic calming devices, because in our communities, the speeding is out of control. People don't realize the stuff that you don't deal with when you're in non-Black communities. When you're in non-Black communities, and that's what makes Miami Garden so special. And I want to talk about that, Jill, because people don't realize what happens when you have a responsible Black government in your community. I know folks.
Okay, but let's go back before you go there. Go back to the irresponsible one. Infrastructure was a problem. Access to your building was a problem.
Yes, because they were tied.
But customers was not a problem.
Oh, of course not. I mean, we had folks coming from Broward that was like, my God, Starks, if we can just get parking, we'll be here every day. I mean, people were.
Oh, the place I came to.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
beautiful, right? Remember, we had that incredible food. Right. So I spent $15,000 of my own money. I lost $15,000 of my own money because Commissioner Monestein didn't find it in his duties to put a fucking traffic signal. All we were asking, because initially we were like, listen, the speeding's out of control. We need you to do the same traffic calming devices that you do on Biscayne. So wherever you live, I want you guys to understand this. When you go to predominantly Black communities that are impoverished, the only time that they start getting noticed is when big white developers decide to come in and gentrify it. And the earmarks is for you to go to your regional planning council meetings, right? So for instance, we have the South Florida Regional Planning Council, and when you see certain agenda items on there, you automatically know, okay, there's white money coming into this now, because you see the agenda item and you start seeing drainage projects. That's the first the first sign that development is coming. You start seeing drainage projects, and you start seeing road projects. You start seeing the infrastructure being repaired. And when you see the infrastructure being repaired,
it's too late. So what I'm saying is,
it's not that it's too late, Jill.
But once that happens, you are out. It's out of your income bracket.
Well, it's not.
You got to be on to the next one. You know that by the time.
No, it's not. It's not. Right? That's the first sign. And Bill Diggs, who we need to have on here, Bill Diggs is someone I respect. And Bill Diggs is now he's like the CEO of some sort of healthcare. I don't know something he's doing now. But before that, he was with the 100 Black Men. And and then after that, he was with the Alonzo Mourning Charities. And what Alonzo Mourning Charities have done is something that they are the only Black philanthropic organization in Miami that operates like a traditional white philanthropic organization. Like they don't really beg.
You did not just say that. Okay.
They do. They do. And they're very effective.
I would give you the Urban League of Broward.
No, I'm talking about the fact that they are effective in how they fundraise. Like they fundraise like
don't just single. I mean, they do a good job, but a lot of them do.
No, name them. Name a Black. Broward. No, I'm talking about fundraising, Jill. I'm talking about fundraising.
How do you think that Jermaine is doing all that? That's not national money coming down there.
No, Joe, look, what I'm saying is I'm not saying they're not doing a good job. I'm simply saying that the way that the Alonzo Mourning machine fundraises, there's no other Black organization here that does that.
Okay.
There isn't to that level. I mean, they're raising millions of dollars from private donors. Who's doing that? Name me one Black foundation that's raising millions of dollars from private donors.
I just did. We need to get Jermaine on here. That would be a good conversation and give me a few and I'll give you some more. That would be a good conversation to get them on together to talk about how they raise money for their organizations, and then how does that money filter itself into these communities. We raise a whole shit ton of money. We should not have as many raggedy ass hoods as we do. That's a very valid conversation to have.
Yes, the United Way, and that's what I'm getting at. The United Way raises a ton of money, and they raise it off of Black people, and I don't see them doing anything in our communities. I haven't seen, and they don't even build their, you know what I'm saying? They don't even build their headquarters, their offices. Like when I look at the Children's Trust, they need to be located in Liberty City. They don't need to be in Coral Way, right?
Well,
because
listen, let's move on from that conversation today, because we really cannot have that one legitimately, and we need to. We do a disservice. We do a disservice to the people who are getting shit done without having, at this moment in history, by having that conversation with at least two of them, Bill Diggs and Jermaine. Maybe we pick two, but they need to be at the table, because we do not know the depth of what they are raising, how much, and how difficult or better that it's gotten. We don't, and I don't even want to put that out there. People already don't want to give. I don't want to put out any more barriers to people giving to these organizations. That's right, because Jill and so-and-so was talking about how I don't know what they do with their money, but we giving our money over here. No,
we're saying the complete opposite. I don't know what you got from what I said. I was praising what the organizations have done and how they raise money and how they're effective. I'm saying that they are effective.
Right. You said Mourning Charities, and I agree. I've worked with them a lot. But
yes,
they do it better than anybody else. And I said, Urban, you like, no. And that's what I'm saying. I don't want to get into that conversation of who's doing what better without having them at the table. We have no idea of the very. I know Bill did. I know exactly where you're going. I'm just saying we need to move on from that conversation right now.
Yeah, so
having them as a part of it.
That's fine. And so what I'm saying is that when you look at organizations like the Children's Trust, when you look at governmental organizations and where they build their headquarters, that matters, because the economy that's built around those headquarters, the businesses benefit greatly from them. So when you the Miami Times, what do you mean?
Right. The Black press should have been the center of the most thriving part of our community, and it wasn't. Look at it now. So what happened?
I think that the Miami Times, which is our local Black paper, it's a lot to be imagined with the paper in general. I mean, I don't think that they're doing the best that they could, and I really can't tell you why that paper has fallen to the level that it's fallen. I just couldn't.
Well, because they can't keep good talent because they don't pay them enough. I can tell you why that paper has fallen.
Yeah.
They just had Carolyn Guinness was a great editor. She was one of the best editors that they've had in a long time, but nobody was paying her attention for what she was doing with the paper. It just that narrative, I read the Miami Times for chatter that matters and the burials. And that's it. So it wasn't that she was Kevin before her. That shit almost put him in the grave. He's a great editor. He's gone on to Detroit to do the Michigan Chronicle and is doing a great job. He's won several awards for his journalism. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's not, it is certain things that we have to have, particularly now, and especially stuff like that, raising money, how we're funding, how we're supporting Black business. We need to have that conversation with those.
It's currently clear at 88 degrees.
What? Thank you. With those people at the table, because a lot of the problem for me is getting them to the damn table. And so I think at the same time, and it's right on the tip of my mind right now, planning this next election season. So on one hand, you're saying that they don't participate, and you're right. Yes. On the other hand, I see where they are called to participate and they don't.
Who are you referring to? Who are you referring to? Who are you referring to?
I'm referring to just, do I want to say people in power in general? I could. Black folks in power in general, I could say that. And now that we're in a political season, politics specifically.
So someone said it's extremely hard for Black impoverished people to buy Black only. That is true. And that's why we're working on
well, just don't buy shit today then.
Yeah.
And I said, so whoever that is, just don't buy nothing today. You know, we gotta stop finding every fucking barrier we can to getting this done. We're not going to see it in our lifetime. I'm sure of that. But I'm sure, you know, when them slaves got ready to run off them damn plantations and they knew we either get where we going or we're going to die, you know, they put a little greater level of commitment into it that we are doing right now. We got to take a lot of responsibility for, you know, where this whole thing is.
I'm all for shopping, purchasing, and buying Black. However, it's important that when I go to the Black-owned business, I want to be appreciated as a value customer. Customer service is still necessary. I think so like, I'll deal with that in a minute. This is just a thought, but it seemed that when people speak about Black-owned business, they are more critical of the presentation, etc., often using that to not frequently that business or support it, but they don't feel the same way about other business. Honestly, if you had opened that restaurant in Northside, you would have given a high-end flair to that area.
Right.
You know, hindsight is 2020.
No, but that was Northside even on your radar? Is that something you even thought about?
Northside was not on my radar because we wanted to have an experience of a standalone restaurant. That was what we wanted to give the neighborhood. And it was a great way to partner with a liquor store next door that allowed us to have a liquor license and be able to have a bar. So it was strategic and it made sense, you know? And so I think that opening as a Black business owner, you know what I'm saying? And so what I'm dealing with now, Jill, and so those of you don't do, so you can know what we're doing, one of the barriers of buying Black culinary products is that we don't know where they are. So that's one of the biggest. So if I say to you, hey, buy Black lemon pepper, if I say, hey, buy Black salt, if I say buy Black flour, you don't even know where to get it from. And so the thing is that we're creating a site, a one-stop shop called myblackpantry.com, and that will allow you to literally log on. And so I suggest you to go to, we just created the Instagram, go to Instagram, follow My Black Pantry on Instagram, because what we're going to do, we're going to be posting 2 Black-owned products every single day. Every single day, we're going to post 2 Black-owned culinary products. And then on the site, you'll be able to go on and order whatever you want. The problem that we're having is that it's hard to bring all of us together. So when we talk to these Black creators that are in Detroit, that are in New York, that are in Charlotte, that are in Los Angeles, that are doing great work, now we're going through the painstaking process of procuring them and getting them on the site, getting them registered on the site, getting the vendors. It's a lot. And we're doing this with a team of 2 teenagers and 2 interns. And so that process is very different.
Time, but you're getting it done and it's going to happen.
Yeah. And so I'll say to people what you just said, I need everyone to understand that watches this video today, that the process of supporting Black economics has a social responsibility attached to it. It is not purely a consumer behavior decision. And so I need you to process that. I need you to accept that. And I need you to participate in that. So when you use words like, well, I'm not going to be disrespected, or I need great customer service, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do this, we don't make those statements for non-Black businesses. We walk into them
because they have all your money, right? So if when StarX went into business, he had the kind of money like, I don't know, Baskin Robbins, you wouldn't have those issues at all. You know what I'm saying? And everybody has to start somewhere. And we're so used to going to, now it's a status symbol that we can go spend so much money on something that we didn't create. Like, if that's not psychosis, I don't know what the fuck is. But
And that's,
you gotta mentally get to the place where, I just think about, there's a picture of these 8 women, fleeing slavery, and on the side of the road, and they have like, those like sticks with handkerchiefs and shovels and shit. Like, every time I see the picture, I'm like, what was the shovels about? But it really doesn't even matter. They were running for their lives. We're in a whole nother place, but damn it, had they not run for their lives, we wouldn't be here. And at some point, I just don't know why we think we're gonna get where we're trying to go without severe goddamn sacrifice. I just don't know why we think
those
that
shovels were weapons, Jill.
What?
Those shovels were weapons. That's what they were for.
Well, there you go. See what I mean?
Yeah,
that's how they work together. It's like, oh, okay, that makes good sense now. But I don't know what y'all thinking. I do not know. You're gonna leave that Gucci bag and all the rest of that shit wherever it lay, if it gets to that level. I mean, because what are we gonna do? When your kids, grandkids are talking about this time, what are they gonna say that we did that progressed the movement? I'm just asking.
Someone responded to you, Jill. Luke Webb said, our history didn't start with slavery, ma'am. Jill's frozen. Here in Houston, there's a chain of fast food Chinese restaurants called Timmy Chan's. Their locations look like
in America. Whoever that was, Luke Webb just said our history didn't start with slavery. Yes, it did in America. Now, if we was here before them ships sailed, you tell me I am missing something. And I would love to learn that. But as far as I know, ships sailed from Africa with hundreds, millions of slaves, and that's how the hell we got here.
According to a belief, Jill, because you and I are both Black Americans and we don't have Caribbean ancestry, as far as we literally hundreds of years back, because we're Americans, there's a movement and there's a group of people that believes that we are indigenous to this land, that when the slaves got here, you and I were already here, that we are a part of some tribe of natives that was here before the slave ships, and that there is a DNA proof that they can prove that Black Americans actually are not Africans, and that's a real movement that people believe. I talked to a gentleman that believes that.
Well, what is their point?
That's my whole thing. I'm like, okay, even if that's true, right? I share the exact like I'm African, like like even if I'm from here, I share this same genetic whatever to an African. So I'm just
because in fact, we created what America is. The white people, they came from Poland, they came from Austria, they weren't here either. Did you watch Farrakhan Saturday, sir?
All right,
he go find it.
We have someone that Claudio said, here in Houston, there's a chain of fast food Chinese restaurants called Timmy Chan's. Their locations look like they haven't been remodeled since the 80s. Black folks kept that drive-through packed daily until closing time, even on Sunday. So miss me with the Black businesses need to appreciate me by having the state-of-the-art equipment.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Claudio. It's interesting that we have so many non-Miami Broward viewers at this point. Well, they just opened a finger licking here in Orlando. Can I go there today for lunch? That's Black owned, right? It sure is. And you can go.
Go right ahead.
Incredible brother named E-Class.
E-Class.
Riley Ribs makes seasonings and sauces really, really good, better than any of that other stuff. He's out of Chicago and ships everywhere. I actually know the brother that makes that, and his seasoning is legendary. And so he will be
a little direct. You need to put up a little directory so we can just click and go. Because as we talking and doing this show, I could be clicking and going to get that seasoning.
But Jill, that's what My Black Pantry is. And when it's launched in National Black Business Month, which is next month, you guys will have an opportunity to do that. It's going to be incredible. I'm telling you, it's going to be a big game changer as well, because now you have the whole world of Black culinary. I mean, you should see the amount of Black wines that are available. There are so many Black wine brands that I was just blown away. And I have a couple seasonings that some folks mailed to me that I've been cooking with that just incredible. Anyway, I'm excited about that, but I wanted to get into what they were talking about in reference to that beat up Chinese restaurant and how so brother, here we have a place called Snappers, and it's the same way. It is the most horrific service you'll ever imagine. And Black people are lined up around the block. But guess what? It's an Arab-owned business. It's not Black-owned. And they hold, I mean, I don't know why we hold our people to such a high standard when we mess up. I mean, anything can happen. And then you start going off the rails about Black businesses, but you'll give your complete allegiance and patience and acquiescence to non-Black businesses who literally can just drop your food on the ground in the back of the I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to get, I'm about to mess with you, Star X.
What happened?
I just went on and signed up on myblackpantry.com. You're gonna have to get that for every dollar of median income a white man earned, others earned. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. Well, wait a minute. No, I was reading the wrong thing. For every dollar of median income a white man earned, others earned a Black man between 60 and 80 cents. Do tell.
Are you talking about how that came about?
Yeah, it's just so random. I mean, just randomly. There was a Wall Street Journal piece, I want to say Sunday or Monday, that I just fell asleep reading last night, that we are at 53, that Black men are at 53 cents, 53 to 60.
It went down.
Per research, raceforward.org. Let me go over there. Okay, I'm sorry, I digress. Go ahead, Race Forward.
Yeah, so we're looking at a situation right now with Black economics that and in about 9 minutes we're going to have Udonis Haslem on, who is working in the food and drink space and actually increasing the number of Black employees that are hired at his businesses. So we're going to hear from him in about 9 minutes and what he's doing. And I'm excited about that conversation. Aisha said that is true. There are people of color who were here in the Americas thousands of years before Europeans discovered America. There are Black statues with our Black features all throughout Central America. However, African Americans are from Africa brought to the Americas. I mean, in Ghana, everyone has an entrepreneur spirit because they feel supported. We can support each other. We always make excuses not to support our own. Wake up, my people. Shantae, Denise, sweet, thank you. And I love shopping online, especially during this COVID.
I know, right?
How can you populate a whole continent with Africans with a musket and fighting Indians?
Wait, what is it? Oh, Luke. Luke Webb is
that is true, though. That is very true. He said, you know what's up? How can you populate a whole continent with Africans with a musket? I never thought of it like that. You were absolutely right.
No, some of us have fire today. Okay.
Brother's absolutely right. You know, when you put it in that perspective,
I love
some of us probably had that been.
I love
that. Oh, Jesus. I never thought of it like that. That is so true. How did you do that?
I'm just saying.
Okay. You are so right. Snappers would probably fail a health inspection. We don't want to support Black restaurants, but we'll keep going to McDonald's or Houston's to eat after getting bad service. Whenever I had an issue with the Black restaurant, I kindly tell the manager or owner, I do not blast them publicly.
Yeah.
We have to support and do better. He said, I know some stuff, bro. I love my people. All right, Luke. That was a good one. So, you know, as far as our economics go, I mean, today is Blackout Tuesday. And, you know, unfortunately, it just didn't get the fanfare it deserved. People like myself and Jill, who, you know, I just don't need any prodding, right? I don't need any prodding. I don't need any programs. And so I understand that that's something that I don't need, but it's definitely something that we need to do, because when we go live from these Black-owned businesses, it is a great feeling to know that our people do want to support each other, because guess what, Jill? Once we leave and we finish that live and it gets that 5,000-6,000 views or 100 shares or whatnot, it changes the dynamic of that business. You know, they come there and now they have regular customers. There's a healthy Black-owned juice bar in North Miami Beach called Mourning Squeeze, and
how cool.
and it's
I went to Casa Champette because you went there, and that's right around the corner. I've been living here forever.
Isn't it delicious?
Oh, Jesus. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get some pickles this afternoon to make that run over there.
Black Americans would
love to get pickles.
Oh, no. Black Americans would love Haitian cuisine. And a lot of Black Americans.
That's the best oxtail I ever had.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
It's delicious. And speaking of that, getting back to we have 5 minutes before UD comes on, but getting back to building this Black Wall Street back, right? The process of building Black Wall Street back is rooted in anchors as well. And we need to start looking at how those anchors, finger licking. Let's talk about finger licking for a minute in serving as an anchor. Because finger licking has a lot of hype around it with the hip hop partners that are involved in opening the restaurants, you see a lot of activity that's around finger licking, even when there's things like big hip hop concerts, when there are All-Star Weekend, all of those things. You have the stars, they will leave the beach and they'll come to Miami Gardens. And I don't know if anyone's noticed that, but you'll have All-Star Weekend and they're used to just being on the beach. And so now you'll go to finger licking in Miami Gardens, and because of what E-Class has done and partnering with Khaled, you have these people, you know, that's their rite of passage, if you will, now, right? To come
right, Crabman down the street.
Crabman as well.
Right, that you have to go and House of Mac. You gotta have all of those on your Instagram timeline before you leave.
Right. Yeah. And so that's, and Darren and Johnny have done over at Crabman have done an incredible job as well, because you know, E-Class was someone that was very successful in the music industry, but Darren and Johnny were just guys making crabs out of their house. And they
garage. Okay. Out of their garage.
We got someone from Alabama. Thank you for following us. We appreciate that. I love the dialogue. Other than Google, is there a hub where we can find information on Black-owned businesses? Yeah. So if you go to myblackpantry.com right now and put in your email and then follow us on Instagram, we just started everything. And so as soon as the launch happens, you'll get the email.
Don't undersell it like that. It looks great. Who did that?
Well, yeah. No, I'm working with our in-house tech team. We're building it.
The graphics in there are really good. I like that logo.
Oh, no, Shep did the logo though. He did. The logo. Yeah. So yeah, we have some comments here. There's a big difference between the Black business and the Black hustle. Organization and infrastructure are the most obvious difference. We need to support both. The Black hustle keeps daycare and minor bills paid. The likelihood of hustle turning into generational legacy is highly unlikely. The Black business is where jobs, good jobs, are created and usually can be shared for generations to come. It's where wealth can be developed. Both are necessary. Both are essential to the lives.
What is she talking about? That's what it becomes. I mean, but to say that a hustle cannot turn into generational wealth that's not true.
I think she said that it's unlikely.
I don't think that's true either. This whole culture of these these kitchens. If she that's what I mean. If she had said that to, the guys from Crab Man when they was in the garage, if that was like one of their girlfriends and she just kept saying that shit, one of them would have gave up.
I think she said unlikely though, not impossible.
Period. Why would you even say unlikely? You know what I'm saying? You can't like you think about, particularly, especially like in education, Jewish communities and other communities, they're very, very, very focused on, not including negative language as directed to children. Like fundamentally, they will go and rewrite shit, books, everything, to make sure that there is no kind of language like that. And we are very quick to use that. Is it unlikely? Why is it unlikely? Why? You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't. You bloom where you planted. The rose that grew from concrete. It would be very unlikely that Tupac could have become, an idol of our generation. That was real goddamn unlikely. Guess what?
Well, good morning, Sylvester.
And there he was.
Good morning, Sylvester King. This is Sylvester King, guys. Udonis Haslem's business manager.
How are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
So we're just waiting on, I guess, UD to click the link, and then we'll get started with our conversation today.
Yeah, he's on his way.
How's your day going so far?
She was.
Excuse me?
And I said, how's your day going so far?
Oh, no, going great. Going great. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Oh, of course, of course. So, guys, again, this is Sylvester King, financial extraordinaire and business manager of Udonis Haslem's holdings and all his good stuff. And so we're going to get into that conversation. I met Sylvester almost a year now. A year now. And he has done an incredible job with working with UD. And I wanted him to come on the show today to talk about a couple things and starting a conversation out with the fact that across the country, we see so many young Black athletes that are at the top of their game, specifically in basketball, now choosing to attend HBCUs, which is a big move for these students as well as the universities themselves. And so we wanted to have a conversation about that, as well as just kind of chime in on the business dealings of UD post NBA and what that means for the food ecosystems here, specifically in South Florida, and also what you guys are doing with battling and sort of managing during the COVID period, like so many other Black businesses. And then Jill just someone commented on this on the whole Black business conversation. And I think it's a very valuable conversation, especially you being in the financial industry, to kind of chime in. And I'll share that comment as UD attempts to come on. The young lady said, there is a big difference between Black business and the Black hustle. Organization and infrastructure are the most obvious difference. We need to support both. The Black hustle keeps keeps daycare and minor bills paid. the likelihood of the hustle turning into generational legacy is highly unlikely. Jill took issue with that statement. Black business is where good jobs are created and usually can be shared for generations to come. It's where wealth can be developed. Both are necessary. Both are essential to our lives. That comment was a very loaded comment. And there were some pieces in there that I definitely wanted you to, chime in on as far as Jill's issue was the fact that she stated that the Black hustle is unlikely to turn into a Black business. What are your thoughts on how Black people, specifically when they set out to start businesses, and in your experience, where is there the falling off point or turning point of the Black hustle matriculating into a robust Black-owned business? Where does that happen? And where do you find, in your experience, to be the sweet spot for that to occur?
Well, I think it's a great question. And I think there's a deeper conversation around that, because what I find in helping people really establish business structures from the very beginning, and then hopefully getting those transitioned into an actual live operating business, so much of the focus is too much on just the concept and not building it from the foundation and the bare bones of what that corporate structure is, who is around you, who is giving you financial advice, and the actual operation, and margins, and just so much other details in the beginning before actually opening up. And if you don't put in just as much work before operations and all of the corporate structures, accountants, being able to test what you're pricing products for, and kind of having real life projections of what you're doing. I think that is where I see specifically in many Black businesses where a lot of the focus is not. And if you don't do those things, your result is really predictable, because, anything else is really just much more of a gamble. Anytime you are focusing on a business plan and don't have realistic aspirations of what you're going to do, the result is going to be, in most cases, pure luck on the upside and more likely on the downside.
Mm-hmm.
So, guys, I want to thank Sylvester for coming in and chiming in. And I also want to thank Mr. Udonis Haslem for joining us as well. UD is someone that we definitely respect over at the Hungry Black Man. We've had the opportunity to have seen Udonis over the years do such incredible philanthropic endeavors. He's donated tons of his time and energy and money to youth, and his foundation has done quite a bit in our community. And now he's definitely making waves in our space, which is the food and drink space, with the opening of 800 Woodfire, along with some other brands that we're going to discuss today, hopefully. And so thank you for joining us, Mr. Haslem. We appreciate you guys being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Good morning.
I'm sorry, Joe.
Good morning. How are you? Jill
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm here.
How you doing, Jill? Huge fan of yours. I've heard your name on the radio for years. I'm a huge fan.
Thank you, boo. So you have to come, holler at your sister on Hot Talk.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, Sylvester will make that happen.
I won't be hard to find for the next 3 months. Trust me.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
So we're going to start the conversation off with, I know you guys have a hard stop in 30 minutes, so we're going to make this as productive as possible. Sylvester, we were talking about, and Udonis, we were talking about the fact that as a professional athlete, so many times we find Black financial advisors, we find Black professionals absent from the conversation and absent from the actual space itself. Your relationship with Sylvester and Sylvester's ability to be that Black financial professional and business manager in your life, that decision was that decision made purposely, or do you find that Black professionals in the financial area, when it comes to professional athletes, it's just absent from the picture? Like, how did that come about?
I think, a lot of times, these athletes, when they're drafted, their agent kind of has things lined up for them. So those guys don't really have to think much. They don't have to do much. And, you know, a lot of the times when these guys are drafted, and most of the times in a lot of situations, these guys have white agents. So a lot of times when you have a white agent and you're drafted, and, you know, he's going to put you in position to work with this guy, and he's going to put you in position to work with this guy. He's going to make sure that you're surrounded by his particular people. And a lot of those times, those people are going to be white people. You know, for me personally, I want somebody I can trust, somebody I really felt comfortable around. You know, I didn't really grow up around a lot of white people, and also somewhat of a mentor, somewhat of a black role model, somewhat of someone who, you know, you can learn from, not just have somebody around you. I had enough friends around me, black people around me every day, but put somebody around me that I can learn from, a positive black role model. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who knows something I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who I could pick up the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning and call and ask a question, and I know he's going to have that answer. I've never had that type of African American male in my life. You know, so for me, you know, working with Sylvester was way beyond just having a business partner or a business manager or somebody like that. It was also somebody who can also be somewhat of a role model and somewhat of a father figure, you know, for a young black man in America with a lot of money and a lot of access. You know what I'm saying? They don't have classes for that. You know, they don't teach that.
Right.
You kind of go through that with trial. You kind of go through that with trial and error, bro.
Yeah.
I thought they were offering that class at Miami-Dade. It's called the Black Rich Guy.
It's called BMF, blowing money fast. That's the class. That's what they call it.
Exactly.
So the other, I'm sorry. So I wanted to also ask, and this is transitioning into a conversation along the same lines about being young and black and athletic and all that good stuff. There's a number of black youth who are rated at the top of their game in basketball right now that are overwhelmingly choosing to go to HBCUs. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on what effects do you think that'll have on the game? What effects do you think that'll have on the prospects of those young people entering the NBA? And how would that look if you see a trend, a true trend of young black Generation Z, because these are Zennials and they're like taking their power back in that sense, right? What are your thoughts on that?
I love it. I love the fact that, you know, we're switching the power over to the HBCUs, and, you know, all that money that the colleges make off black athletes and it goes to the colleges. And, you know, we all know those are predominantly white colleges. So, you know, to have these guys switch to power, you know what I'm saying, and the attention and the money and the finances, just by signing a piece of paper to go to a school. You know, they have no idea what they've done for the coach and what they've done for this school, and, you know, how things shift by having these big time athletes go to this school. So, you know, now the money starts to come, you know, now the TV starts to come, and now we start to get these black colleges back on TV and start to get them exposure that they've been missing for so long. So I think it's an amazing idea. Yeah. I wish my generation came up with it, but I think it's an amazing idea for this generation. And, you know, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to cutting on those games and watching these HBCUs and these young black athletes, you know, put on for these teams and for our culture. But I will say, you know, the side of it that, you know, was very important for me when I walked out to colleges. I had never been around white people. I had never been around anybody but blacks and Hispanics. So for me to go to University of Florida was a culture shock, and it was something that I needed. You know, I needed to be around different cultures. I needed to kind of, you know, get out of my comfort zone and learn about, you know, different nationalities and different people. So, you know, with that being said, I think it's a great idea. I think we definitely need to bring the attention, the money, and the athletics to the HBCUs. But also, when all these young kids are coming out of the inner city, I think it's very important for them to branch out. I think it's very important for them to branch out and interact with other cultures as well. So, you know, by going to the HBCUs, I think that's a great idea. I think we need it. I think our black colleges deserve it. I think they deserve the money and exposure. But I also want these black men that are coming out of these inner cities to also get the exposure of being well-rounded individuals. You know what I mean? Right. And interacting with a lot of different coaches and a lot of different people. Because if and when these guys make it to the NBA, that's the next step. How do you interact with a lot of different people? Because you're going to be out of your comfort zone pretty much every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Sylvester, I wanted to. And you know, Udonis touched on a really good point. Now, I'll knock back against this in the sense that Sylvester, your role as business manager and looking at how these businesses have grown or whatever industries he's gotten into post NBA or even during the NBA, your ability to advise and your ability to serve as a foundation for the growth of these businesses, what experience would you say you've had with UD in balancing the effects of him being a star athlete and now a businessman? Because those two dynamics, they can be volatile and in many respects. How have you been able to navigate and to manage and also direct him into the food and drink space post NBA career?
Well, you know what? I will tell you, it's come with a lot of trial and error over my career, as far as really understanding the psychology of many different professional athletes, and then individually as men. Because again, I started my career with working with doctors, lawyers, and other financial professionals, and their psychology is significantly different than, of course, a 22-year-old who is, just coming to a huge amount of money and wants to do a lot of things, but doesn't have the experience and the know-how to be able to figure out what really is risk. They don't really perceive risk the same way. And so I believe that you have to, from the very beginning, be able to explain things to them in a way in which resonates with them. So much of what we do, the financial piece, trying to figure out numbers and all the other details of why you should do something, it's not difficult. It's really understanding your client and understanding how they perceive risk. Because for many who have come from at-risk backgrounds, they're used to just getting by, just figuring it out. You know what I mean? And don't realize that once this money comes in and it's spent, it doesn't recreate itself. It doesn't fall back off of the tree. You know what I mean? And so you many have, so think about traditional client has, you're able to work 50, 60, years of your life and retire a quarter of your life. You spend 3/4 of it working, of your adulthood, and then a quarter of it retired. Here, if you are able to have a great opportunity, you work for a quarter of your life, and you need to allow that money to last 3/4 of your life. A million things can happen, statistically during that period of time. So as it related to UD, it really was, I spent so much, almost 30 years as a financial advisor and financial planner. So therefore, being able to explain things in a way that they understood, that they felt comfortable asking questions, because when it comes to your finance, there is no stupid question. And if I can't explain it to you like you're a 5-year-old, then I didn't do a good enough job. Because at the end of the day, it's your money, and you need to be able to understand why you're in it and explain it to somebody else. So it was a process over time. And then again, when I took over the business management role, it was something that we did together. Because as much as I know and I appreciate and I'm blessed that UD trusts me as much as he does, he should be able to explain why we're in something and why it has the potential to be great and all the pitfalls. Because with business, think about it, it's more risk than a traditional investment that if you buy a mutual fund, that every single company can't go to zero. You can lose money, but in a business, you can lose everything. And you can have a great concept, but the execution of that concept allows for you to get nothing out of it, and you could lose your shirt. So being able to have conversations with them along the way, understand where the real risk is and why we're here. Is there a better way to do it? And how do you mitigate it as much as possible over time?
So UD, this question is directed toward you. It's a 2-part question, and it's in the area of food. After your career, how did you get, and if you don't mind, if you can share with folks what you're doing, because a lot of folks really don't know. We had the privilege of working with your media team and did a great write-up on 800 Wood Fire Degree. So I definitely want you to talk about that, but I wanted you to talk about the global sort of perspective of what you're doing in food and why you chose that industry, after your MBA career.
I mean, for me, I wanted something that I was interested in. I wanted something that would spark my interest. I didn't just want to throw a couple of dollars at something and walk away and then wait for a check to come back. I wanted something that I can have fun with. I wanted something I can be involved in. When you're interested in something, when something piques your interest, You just go at it a little harder. And for me, anything that I want to be involved in, I want to go at. So I used to be a chubby kid growing up, real chubby kid, always, mixing the different ideas. Growing up in the South in Miami, man, we don't know how to cook healthy. You just, it is what it is. You eat what you got when you come home, and if you don't eat, then what your mama cooked, then you might not eat at all. So you go ahead and eat what mom cooked, and so I started out with Subway, which as a kid I just ate a lot of Subway, just trying to, somewhat manage my weight, somewhat put myself on somewhat of a dietary restriction. And that was just really easy for me. It put me in a situation where it was just like, it kind of ran itself once you figured out the process. And Sylvester tell you it's tedious all the way down to the pickles. But once you kind of figure out the process with the Subway, they pretty much kind of run themselves. But all this was in the sense of, how can I create jobs for my family and my friends and people around me? Instead of giving people money and crippling people, how can I create opportunities? So, for me, Subway was something that I was just comfortable with. And like I said, I ate a lot of subs, and it started with Subway, and then we built on from there. And then we got to it was Starbucks and Einstein. Around this time, I started drinking coffee a lot, because now I'm like 10 years in the NBA, and every day is a coffee day. Like, so now I'm switching drinks. I'm trying this. I got the Starbucks app on my phone. I'm picking it up on the way out. Like, now I'm full-fledged all in with the coffee.
Right.
So now I'm saying to myself, this is something else that I'm kind of interested in. This is kind of cool. This is around the food and beverage situation. So Starbucks was another opportunity that came my way, as well as Einstein. So, these opportunities continued to come my way, and these were things that I was, at these stages in my life, weirdly enough, these were things that I was starting to like actually go to these places and, do this stuff. Because early in my career, I was away from coffee. All the veterans would drink coffee. I would not drink coffee. I was like, it stain your teeth. I ain't drinking that. And like, now I'm like 7 years in the NBA. I can't get to the gym without stopping for a coffee. I can't make it to the gym without stopping for a coffee. So, Starbucks is part of my day. So all these things were part of my day. They were part of my daily life. Stopping at Subway, eating subs, stopping at Starbucks, getting coffee. So I thought it'd be cool just to be invested in those things, because I'm really interested in these products. I really use these products, and this is a cool way to provide jobs and opportunities for people in my city. Like Sylvester said, there's a lot of layers to these things, man. And if he doesn't explain it to me to the point where I can explain it to somebody else, like he said, he's not doing it well. So Sylvester and I will literally sit down an hour after a meeting and sit down for another hour. And I'll ask the most basic questions and go over everything again until I understand it. And one thing I do have is I have a great mind. So Sylvester tell you, I can sit in a meeting without a pen and a pad, and I can remind somebody of something they said in the last meeting. I don't need a pen and a pad for you to tell me what you said. I've been in the league 17 years. I remember plays like the back of my hand. So when you say something to me and it's in a meeting and, I'm paying attention, I know what you said. So everything about this was just, it fit into who I am. You know what I'm saying? Subway was part of my growing up culture, trying to eat, subs as a kid and keep the weight off. As I got older in the NBA, I started to get into the Starbucks and the Einstein, grabbing coffee literally every day, trying to get a coffee to get my day started. And then also being in Miami, where my family and friends need opportunities and they need jobs. So it all kind of just fit into who I was and where I was at those points in my life. Sat out with Sylvester, I had an injury. Never had an injury in my career, man. One of the closest injuries that I had to end in my career. And I sat down with Sylvester and I said, hey, man, I got a lot of time on my hand, and these are some things that I've been thinking about. I really don't know how to start the process, but these are things I'm thinking about. And from that point on, he connected me with the right people. We did our research, and we started making moves. And the layers to it, like Sylvester said, you can have a great concept, but if you have a bad business model and bad projections and bad management, you can lose your shirt. So, thinking that I got Starbucks, it's just going to blow up and do great just because the name is Starbucks. That's not the case. There's so many layers to things that have to work behind the scenes. Hiring good people. Oh my gosh. It's one of the hardest things in the world. Just to hire good people. You know what I mean? Just to hire good people. You know what I mean? So, for me, it also was a wake-up call, because I said, I want to hire our people. I want to hire people that look like us. I want to hire people that may have made mistakes in the past. I want to give them another opportunity to succeed. But it was also a wake-up call to me to say, hey, everybody don't want an opportunity to succeed. Exactly. Everybody don't think like you. Everybody don't work like you. Everybody don't aspire to be like you aspire to be. And that was another wake-up call for me as well. And it was somewhat disappointing. But it helps you find out a lot about just the world and about people. You know what I mean? I've been living in my own bubble for so long, keeping my head down, working hard, pushing towards the stars, and you just think that everybody has that mentality, and then when you realize everybody really doesn't, it's kind of disappointing. So you continue to reach out, and you continue to gather the people that's looking for an opportunity to go to the next level, and you continue to find those people, and you continue to help elevate those people.
So Sylvester, and I do apologize, UD. I didn't know that you were still playing. That was a very ignorant part on my part. I didn't know you were still playing.
Oh no, that's all good, bro. I wasn't gonna say nothing. I was just gonna take you out on the court and dunk on your ass.
I was just kidding.
I was just gonna take you out. I was just gonna take you out and dunk on your ass. Ask you, do you remember now?
So the problem is they did a very big celebration. I got 3 years until 40, so I'm excited as well. And UD just reached 40. So I was thinking that, he was done, because I saw the mural and I saw all the love, and I was like, maybe this was like some sort of send off,
My boy did that mural.
Oh man.
I apologize.
The city just loved me like that, bro. The city just loved me like that.
No, you're right. And as things move forward, I'll take you up on that offer at Florida Memorial's gym. They got a new gym down there. So I can but Sylvester,
ain't gonna be good for you, bro.
It won't be. It won't be. Let me ask you guys a quick question, though. With all seriousness, so Sylvester, Udonis put some things in perspective, and one of the things you did, and for the both of you, is that a lot of Black men, unfortunately, they don't have Sylvesters, right? They don't have people like him around to be that role model, to be that individual. And so it's a two-part question for the both of you. For Sylvester, how do we create more Sylvesters to have entry points into the lives of young Black male professionals, specifically young athletes, right? Because like he shared, there is this notion of protectionism, right? So if I'm an agent and I'm moving in tandem with my plug and play, right? Talk to Bobby, talk to Susie, and I got you covered, right? What can occur to disrupt that, right? What can occur to disrupt that? And then Udonis, on your side, you mentioned that you grew up with one particular demographic, and when you left, you saw different cultures. And the beauty about HBCUs as well is that we're all Black men and Black women on here, but our cultures are different. We share one ethnicity, but we have very different cultures, right? In the sense of the music we listen to, the things that we do. So HBCUs do an incredible job of showing the complete diversity of what it means to be Black, as opposed to being from a predominantly impoverished Black community. You go off to college and realize the amazing diversity within Black culture, right? And so I asked that to say, for Udonis, how do Black athletes that come from the Opalakas, the Miami Gardens of the U.S. go to a predominantly white school, but then still say to themselves that I see another aspect of what it means to be Black, and I see that in a professional light. So I'm not going to give all my trust to someone who doesn't look like me, because my life has been surrounded by negative impressions of what it means to be Black. So I automatically will think that this other culture will do better with my finances. And so that's your question. And Sylvester, your question is, how do you create better entry points for Sylvesters to be in the lives of our young Black professional athletes? And you guys can answer it however you.
I'll take this. I'll take that first, because, being a financial advisor for almost 30 years, one of the biggest challenges is that in big firms, the amount of financial advisors that look like me are, less than 5%, if that.
Right.
And so, in this industry specifically, it is really based on connections. And many times these large investment portfolios are passed down from father to son, and it stays within, very non-Black, financial advisory teams. So the financial advisors that are Black that I did get to be able to communicate and associate with, one of the things that I saw was a challenge with them is, first of all, a mindset that I can't get this, this is not available for me, or I have to be sad. I can't work with athletes because of this. Because I will tell you, professional athletes, their families, the decision makers who are in their life, they are not going to choose you just because you're black. Okay, there's a small that they do, but they're not. You know what I mean? They want somebody, first of all, who has a process, who comes with, has experience in being able to take customers from from here to there, and can easily explain that. And so I think from the financial advisory side, one other thing that I find is that too many other black financial advisors try to be their friend, try to be this person that they party with, that takes them and expose them to all sorts glitz and glam that they are going to be they're going to be a part of to try to impress them. And I have never been that person. I feel as if the client, their family, need to be able to respect who you are. I'm not going to the strip club with you. I'm not going to go out to party with you to have, I'm not going to let them see me in that light. And that's always been a conscious choice of myself. And I've seen that has been a choice that when you come to have to make a tough decision or a tough conversation with a client, and they've seen you at your worst, I don't think that really behooves a level of respect as it relates to them. You know what I mean? Udonis and I have been together since 2006, and our relationship has changed dramatically over the last 3 years. That I'm, not as financial, but as business manager. But we're like family. It's a different situation, but still, there's a level of respect that I think that is extremely important if you're trying to lead young men. And I just behoove that to those who work with other, or financial advisors or professionals, that how they act and how they portray themselves is extremely important in being able to make sure that people trust you with their money, not just being friends in their lives.
And UD, your question?
Oh man, you got to run mine by me.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I was listening to Sylvester talking. I forgot what mine was.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So my question to you.
Sarex, you don't realize that you are now speaking to the oldest active player in the NBA right now.
Oh yeah.
So he's the grandfather. He's the grandfather of the NBA. That's amazing.
Yeah, since Vince Carter retired, Udonis is actually the oldest NBA player in active right now.
That's incredible. I'm sorry about that. I know you got a lot on your mind. So as far as my question was, and it's a very serious question. In the past, and obviously, for those of you, full disclosure, I was when I was much younger, I was a director of a Parks and Rec department, and I actually met on Jackie and all of UD's family, and we dealt with them because they were doing a lot of philanthropic things in the city that I worked for, and I had the opportunity to pass out presents. I was like 22 years old, right next to UD, and some other basketball player. I forgot who it was, but we were passing out presents and bikes, and they bought all these things for the kids. And so I was actually talking to you. I was talking to him about all sorts of shit, and I wanted you to also one of these days talk about your path. And I'm looking forward to your book, because you had such an incredible path to get to the NBA. It was such a story of like not giving up, and like that's a whole story within itself. And so if folks don't know UD's path to the NBA, I really look forward to your book when it's written, because it's going to be an incredible book. But I wanted to
throw a flag on this play right quick.
Go ahead.
And now, Sylvester, you'll see why. I'm gonna have to have you on Hot Talk to get a goddamn question in, Star X.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So I'll be done after this.
I gotta go now. I gotta go teach my class. I teach kids in the urban city in the summer, and I gotta go do that.
You didn't have no damn question.
Thank you guys both. Sylvester, I will get your info from StarX.
Absolutely.
And Udonis, thank you so much. And I'll holler.
I will see you soon. We'll talk. Thank you.
All right, Joe.
Bye.
All right.
Take care.
So no, so the question was, I had a program during that time, and there were several kids that actually went to the NFL, and I still, give them advice and all those things, but I'm not a financial advisor, so I didn't put myself in that position. But we did recommend people. Eventually, they didn't use who we recommended, and they had horror stories. So my question to you is, how do you start to prepare young Black athletes in that space to not be taken advantage of, or to find the right mix of maturity and respect and all those good things that you found in Sylvester? How do you help them to make those decisions so that they don't go down the wrong path when choosing a financial advisor or people to be around them in general?
I mean, it's easy. You just try to tell them. For me, it's like, if I find something that works, or if I find something that works for me, I'm gonna try to bring other guys along. So for me, going through the trials and the tribulations of different, financial guys and whatever, and finally finding a home and somebody with Sylvester who's, like I said, not only a business manager and a financial advisor and has all the knowledge, but also has the skills, as a Black man that I can look up to and kind of pattern, some of the things, or, model myself after some of the things he does as a Black man in America. So now, you pretty much, you got that part covered, So now I got these guys and they look up to me. Has nothing to do with finances. They have to trust me beyond finances. We don't have to have a financial conversation. We don't have to have a basketball conversation. I just need these guys to trust me. And the thing that these guys call me the OG and the captain is I approach these guys on a personal level. I get to know their families. I get to know their kids. I get to know what they do, what they like, what they don't like. And I create relationships with all my teammates. So now if I come to you and I say, hey, my business manager, he's great. We do some great things together. I want to make sure you're taken care of, or whatever the situation may be, however I approach it or however it comes up. The fact that these guys trust me and they know that I care about them more than just athletes, and they know that I give them advice beyond just basketball, then they'll take my advice when it comes to a situation like this, for the most part, at least dive into it. And after that, they'll make their own decision. So for me, having the luxury of having a guy like Sylvester around me, I'm quick to pull these young guys to the side and say, hey, man, if you need some help, I got somebody you can talk to. These are some of the things that I've done. These are some of the things that I've been through, and he's helped me a lot. So I'm always quick to pull these guys to the side and not only offer advice in life, offer advice in basketball, but also offer my resources and the people that I work with and the people that work around me.
What do you want, ending the conversation, what do you want your legacy to be, given the fact that you have remained in Miami the majority, if not your entire career? What do you want your legacy to be in Miami?
Oh, wow. My legacy in Miami is, I want my legacy to be beyond basketball. For me, I want to be, I don't want to be remembered, just for basketball. Obviously, that was great. 3 championships, leading rebound organization. That was great. But I want to be remembered for the impact that I made on the city. And I don't want that to be just, just giving jobs. We have some things where we're working on some low income housing opportunities. I want to be known for the impact that I made on this city. A lot of people talk about running for mayor and different things like that. I'm flattered for the opportunity that people think that I could be the mayor of Miami, but I have no interest.
I think
in
you would
politics.
make a great mayor. You should run. You should run.
No interest. Everybody say that, man. I have no interest in politics, but
it might have interest in you, though.
Yeah. That's a question for another day. Next show. Next show. But I want to be remembered for the positive impact that I had on the city. From speaking when things were going on with the pandemic to the city, with everything that's going on with the George Floyd incident, and bringing people together and kind of calming the city from stepping out there through the pandemic and handing out groceries for people that needed it, to winning championships, to providing low income housing and jobs. I just want to be the dude that put on for the city, man. And when I leave, this earth at some point, there's something left in the city that I can always be remembered by and that people can continue to build and benefit from.
Wonderful. I want to thank you guys for giving me your time. Really appreciate that. Jill definitely wanted to ask one last question, but I think that you answered that. The I guess the send off question for the two of you, Sylvester and UD. Well, this one's kind of a companion question, if you will. The fact that you want your legacy to be more than basketball, and as someone that's in a space where you honestly don't have to do anything for anybody, but you choose to, what created, as I've seen you over the years, literally both off the court and on the court, what's created that heart that you have for the love of, number one, people, vulnerable populations like kids and seniors and people who are ill, and doing the things that you've done in the way that you've done them? What created that type of like heart and outreach when in many instances, folks in your position literally don't either give back or just talk about giving back, but don't really actually do it? What made you say to yourself, I'm going to actually do the things that I set out to do when it comes to community endeavors, when it comes to providing jobs and opportunities? What created that heart in you, and how are you able to keep that going?
I mean, I gotta give a shout out to my family, my upbringing, my parents. You know, the way I was raised. You know, we didn't have much, but we always shared. You know, we always took care of each other. And even if, you know, a friend didn't have a place to stay, you know, he can always come over. You know, he can get a meal. You know, he can stay. Just how we were raised. You know, we always took care of each other. We always looked out. We always went above and beyond to make sure, you know, that each other was straight. You know, I've seen so much. I've experienced so much. You know, I've lost so many friends to drugs and violence and different things like that, you know, and not just friends, family, you know. So it's plain and clear that I'm here. You know, I have a purpose and I have a reason, because I could have been any one of those guys, you know, the friends that I have that aren't here right now. I could have been any one of those guys on any given day, you know. So I'm here for a purpose, and I have a platform, and God has kept me, you know what I mean? And I'm going to use it, you know, I'm going to use it the best way I can.
And Sylvester, I guess the last question's for you. What's well, both of you, I guess we wanted to talk about 800 just really quickly before you guys left. The restaurant's doing well. Those of you who have not gone, 800 is in Aventura. It's delicious. There were a couple of questions that folks had in reference to the decision making of why Aventura and why that brand. What created the decision behind making that sort of your flagship restaurant and your flagship community for the restaurant?
I could talk on the 800. Sylvester could pick up on the Aventura. You know, Dwayne and I, a lot of people know Dwayne and I were just looking for something that we wanted to do together, something that we wanted to leave in the city of Miami and build on together. You know, he does a lot of different things, you know, with his team, and I do a lot of different things with my team, but we really didn't have anything to do together. So, you know, we just looked at a lot of different concepts. You know, we wanted something that both of us like. You know, me and Dwayne are very picky eaters. You know, as much as we are alike, we're different in a lot of ways. So, you know, we wanted, you know, a concept that kind of touched, you know, a lot of different areas on the food that we like. But we also understand that a lot of things nowadays are moving towards being health conscious. And as we get a lot older, we have to be more focused on being health conscious as well. 800 Degrees was an opportunity that was presented to us by a friend of ours. And we had opportunities to go out west through the travel with the Miami Heat. And we went out there one day when we were out there with the Heat, and we went to the restaurant. You know, they took us around. We got a chance to see the whole operation, eat the food, you know, meet the people. And it wasn't in South Florida. It was an opportunity to bring something new and something fresh to South Florida. Shout out to 800 Degrees for actually trusting us and giving us, you know, Sylvester could talk more about it, but giving us, you know, giving us the freedom to kind of, you know, change the concept a little bit to go in full service instead of self-service and a lot of different things like that. But, you know, it was really just an opportunity for me and Dwayne to do something together, something that can last and kind of, you know, impact the city. Health conscious, not a sports bar, but kind of have a vibe of when you walk in, like, you know, the atmosphere is, you know, it's energetic, it's free, it's fun, and, you know, everybody's happy. And that's what we got to. You know, Sylvester can kind of talk on the Aventura situation.
Well, I piggyback from what UD said is that, you know, initially 800 Degrees was a fast casual, it was a fast casual concept, you know, almost very similar to a upscale Blaze where you stand in line and you make your own pizza. And, you know, when we started looking for opening up so many of them, and we purchased the rights for all of Florida, Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, Orlando, Tampa. We're looking at all these locations, and we found how challenging finding the right real estate was. And then when we looked at some brand new development sites that were coming up in Aventura, south in Miami, downtown in the train station, we found that was kind of the best way to proceed. And then when we looked at that, we said, the concept of fast casual pizza, build your own, is saturated, and so we worked with Chef Anthony Karen. One of the great things of having an award-winning chef, who was Michael Mina's corporate executive chef to work with, we get that advice on being able to, how do you operate in specific environments. So, they gave us the ability of really working with them to expand the concept, make it a full-service restaurant. Aventura became just an opportunity where it was centrally located with a variety of cities around it, because Aventura is a very small city onto its own, but where it was being new development and kind of being able to kind of create something on our own was the opportunity that it presented. All the other opportunities, honestly, once we changed the concept to full service, it became a much more expensive concept. We were creating dishes from scratch. And it became more of a proof of concept. We do have a second location that was supposed to be opened a couple years ago in the train station, but because of those delays, Aventura became the first location. So sometimes you have a well laid out plan and circumstances kind of put you in the best way for you to get it started. So since we changed it to 800 degrees wood fire kitchen, it became a much bigger operation to manage and to be able to be a part of. That really allowed us just to focus on this, make sure we get it right, and see what our next step was in expanding before just growing without having that under our belt. So we're kind of proud of kind of being able to birth this concept from the beginning with our partners in California, from the brand, but do it in a way that was organic to Dwayne and UD.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much for being on and taking the time to share with our audience. And I look forward to serving as the communications director for UD's 2024 mayoral campaign. And so I will ensure that I organize the hell out of everyone. And so we're excited about that and where you're going to take our city. Gentlemen, thank you guys so much for being on.
Thank you, Star.
Man, you good. I tell you that. If I do run, I'm going to come get you.
I got you, man. We're going to do this. You guys take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right.